Good morning, Clearbranch kids. As you know, it's a brand new month, and so we have a brand new focus. This month, we're going to be focused on wisdom. So, what is wisdom? Well, it's more than just being smart or knowing a lot of things. Wisdom is finding out what you should do and then actually doing it. So, our first story to kick us off for the month of August is going to be about, I bet you already guessed it, Jesus. We're going to find this story about Jesus in the third book of the New Testament in the book of Luke. And this story is a little different from a lot of the ones we hear because this story is about Jesus when he was a child, not but a few years older than you guys. Now, when Jesus was growing up, they had certain holidays and things that they would celebrate throughout the year, not that different from the way that you and I do. And so one of these things that they would celebrate every year with their friends and family was a celebration called Passover. For this celebration, they would travel to the city of Jerusalem and they would spend like a week with their friends and family there, and they would usually have a really special meal and have a lot of good time together. And what they were celebrating is back when God's people, when the Jewish people were enslaved in Egypt, how God rescued them and led them out of that enslavement. So, just like every other year, Jesus and his family had traveled in a caravan with a bunch of other families to Jerusalem. They had spent about a week there celebrating, like I said, for Passover. And then it came time to go home. So they packed everything up and they started the long journey back. Now, they had gotten finished almost the first full day of their journey. And suddenly, Mary and Joseph, Jesus' parents, realized that they had forgotten or couldn't find something very important. And it was Jesus. So they realize they haven't seen him a long time. They start checking up and down the caravan, thinking he's with someone else. But sure enough, Jesus is nowhere to be found. No one has seen him since they left Jerusalem that morning. So Mary and Joseph realize what they have to do, and they turn around and they start the long journey, a day's journey back to Jerusalem. Now, if you don't know what it's like to lose a kid, but it is terrifying. I have done it myself. I only had to go a few feet to find my child. They had to walk a whole day to get back to the city to find Jesus. And they get back there, they look everywhere they can think of, and they can't find him. And then finally, they go back to the temple, and there's Jesus, sitting in the temple courtyard with some other teachers, just discussing everything. And these teachers were just blown away by how wise Jesus was at such a young age. And they couldn't believe some of the answers that he was giving them to the questions that they were asking. Now remember, I said Jesus was just a few years older than you guys. He was about 12 years old. That's pretty young to have been alone in a big city like Jerusalem for almost 3 days now. Well, I know that Mary and Joseph were so relieved when they saw him. But if you've ever gotten away from your mom and she's found you, she was relieved for a hot second, and then what'd she do? She wore you out. And Mary kind of did the same thing. She said, Jesus, where have you been? What have you been doing? We've been looking everywhere for you. And what Jesus said next might have been considered disrespectful if it was any other kid. But remember, this was Jesus, and he knew who he was. And he said, why were you looking for me? Didn't you know that I would be here in my Father's house? Now, I think he probably still got in trouble. He should have just said, yes, ma'am, and come on. But he knew, like I said, even at that age, who his heavenly Father was. He knew what he was sent there to do. And so to him, it made perfect sense. Where else would he be? But here in the temple, with all of these teachers already growing in knowledge and in wisdom, because of course we know that Jesus was incredibly wise and people came to him once he was an adult to help them with all kinds of things. So as we kick off this month on wisdom, what I want you to remember is what Jesus showed us. Because in those 3 days he was alone in that city, he could have been doing anything. But what he was doing is he was looking for wisdom. And we should do that too, because wisdom is worth looking for. Have a great week.